My name is Dorothy Garrett, and until a few weeks ago, I thought my life was on a steady, beautiful path, one that led straight down an aisle, lined with white roses and vows, whispered beneath soft lights. I was 31, engaged to my boyfriend, Brandon Harper, 29. After 4 years together and 8 months of planning a future I thought we both wanted. We were supposed to be married in 6 weeks. I remember waking up that Sunday morning with the kind of peace you can't manufacture warm sunlight. Brandon humming in the kitchen, the scent of coffee drifting into our room. When he suggested we go to brunch with his 3 closest friends, it felt like the kind of lazy, spontaneous moment couples cherish before wedding chaos hits. He said it would be fun, relaxed, nothing special. I nodded, completely unsuspecting. The restaurant was buzzing when we arrived, mimosas clinking silverware, chiming warm chatter, floating through the air. His friends adored him, and I adored seeing him with them. We were mid-laugh about bridesmaid dresses when it happened. Brandon suddenly went silent. Not thoughtful quiet, not emotional quiet. This was dead quiet, the kind that pulls the air out of the room. His friends noticed first. "You okay?" one of them asked. Brandon swallowed, his hands trembling just slightly. Then he looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Cold. Resolve without compassion. Distance without warning. "I need to say something," he breathed. Part of me thought he was going to tell me something sweetly terrifying, like he wanted to change venues, or that maybe, just maybe, he thought I was pregnant. My mind tried so hard to prepare for something normal, something survivable, but nothing could have prepared me for what he said. "I can't do this anymore, Dorothy. I'm calling off the wedding. I don't love you anymore." Just like that, at brunch, in front of his 3 friends, with a waiter walking up behind him carrying my untouched eggs Benedict. His friends gasped. One covered her mouth, another whispered, "Oh my God, are you serious?" For 10 seconds, maybe more, I didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't exist. My heart just thudded once hard like it was slamming a door. Then, something strange washed over me. Calm. Crystal clarity. As if my mind stepped into a new body that knew exactly what to do, even while my heart was collapsing. "Thank you for your honesty," I said quietly. I held out my hand. "The ring, please." He blinked fast, thrown off balance for the first time since this began. "What?" "The engagement ring. It's mine. Or more accurately, it was my grandmother's. I'd like it back." His friends watched with rapt fascination like the world's cruelest reality show. Brandon's face drained, but he slid the ring off and placed it in my palm. Cold metal. Colder moment. I pocketed it, then I stood up. "Well," I said with the calmness of someone floating outside her own body, "this changes plans. I was going to host a wedding reception in 6 weeks. Now I'll be hosting a dodged a bullet party instead. Same venue, same catering, same open bar. You're all still invited." His friends giggled, nervous, disbelieving laughter. They thought I was joking. I wasn't. And about those wedding expenses, I continued, my voice steady and terrifying even to myself. The $62,000 in deposits you insisted on putting in your name to prove you're an independent modern man. Those are all yours now. Congratulations on your independence. The laughter died instantly. Brandon's face turned white. "What, Dorothy? Wait. Your name is on everything, Brandon. The venue deposit, the catering, the photographer, the flowers. Remember, you said it was important for your credit building and personal growth. So, enjoy." One of his friends whispered, "Oh no." I leaned in slightly. "And one more thing. My uncle had planned to gift us $150,000 for the wedding. It was already arranged. But since the wedding isn't happening," I shrugged, "that's gone too." Silence. Heavy, humiliating silence. I placed $40 on the table for the food I never touched. "Enjoy brunch, ladies. I've got a party to plan." And then I walked out. Only when I reached my car did my composure crack. My hands shook so violently I had to grip the steering wheel to steady them. I sat there for 20 minutes, the world blurring outside the windshield. I replayed every second, his voice, his expression, the public ambush. I wondered if the calm I'd shown was strength or shock, maybe both. But even through the tremors, one truth kept rising to the surface like a buoy. He chose the moment. He chose the audience. He wanted the humiliation. And I refused to give him the satisfaction of breaking me there. I didn't know it yet, but brunch was only the opening blow. What came after? The messages, the pressure, the unraveling would turn this single betrayal into a full-scale emotional war. But in that moment, in my car, with my grandmother's ring burning a hole in my pocket, I whispered to myself, "This isn't over." Not for Brandon. Not for me. Not for the truth that was still hiding beneath his sudden cruelty. I thought walking out of that restaurant was the end of it. I thought the humiliation Brandon handed me at brunch would be the worst part. But apparently, when someone detonates a bomb in your life, the aftershocks don't care about timing. They don't care about dignity either. It began barely 2 hours after I left. I was still sitting on my couch, replaying the way Brandon's voice didn't even tremble when he said he didn't love me anymore when the notifications started pouring in. My phone kept buzzing until it felt like an alarm. At first, I didn't look. I couldn't. But when I finally turned it over, I saw names I recognized only because they belonged to his people, his friends, his mother, his sister. None of them had ever reached out to me this aggressively before. Now suddenly, I was the villain in a story Brandon wrote. You can't just abandon him with all that debt. That money was meant for both of you. Be reasonable. You two were planning a wedding. Not a single message said, "Are you okay?" The phone rang again. I answered without thinking, and Brandon's mother's voice slammed into me like a storm. "You can't do this to Brandon, $62,000, Dorothy. He'll be financially ruined. You owe it to him to help." I closed my eyes, steadying myself. He called off the wedding. He insisted on putting everything in his name. "But he assumed you'd contribute." "He assumed we'd be married," I said. He ended that. There was a beat of silence, then she burst into dramatic, breathless sobs, the kind that sound designed for an audience. And just like that, she hung up on me after scolding me, crying at me, and blaming me for choices Brandon made with perfect clarity. A text arrived seconds later from his sister. "He's having a panic attack. Those expenses will destroy him. Are you really going to let that happen?" I stared at the screen and felt something dark and sharp settle into place inside me. He called off the wedding in public and expected me to pay for it. Yes, I'm going to let him handle that. I blocked her. I didn't feel guilty, not even a little. Monday afternoon, the door camera on my phone lit up. Brandon stood outside my building lobby looking like he hadn't slept. He pressed the buzzer over and over until the sound felt like it was hammering my skull. I finally answered through the intercom. "Dorothy, please, we need to talk." "No," I said simply, "we don't." "I made a mistake," he rushed out. I was emotional, overwhelmed. I didn't mean what I said. "You told me you don't love me anymore," I reminded him, "in front of your friends." "That's not what I meant. I was scared." "You meant it enough to humiliate me publicly. That's what you meant." He swallowed, and his tone shifted instantly from apologetic to desperate. "What about the wedding costs, Dorothy? I can't pay that. You have to help me." "No," I said, "I don't. I can't afford $62,000, he shouted. "You should have thought about that before calling off the wedding." "This is financial abuse," he snapped. I laughed not because it was funny, but because it was absurd. "You put everything in your name." "I didn't do that." "You did. I'm not saving you from your consequences." "I'll sue you." "For what not marrying you, be my guest." He stood there another 10 minutes, crying loudly enough that people in the lobby looked over. Eventually, he left, and when the door finally shut behind him, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt like a warning. On Tuesday, I got another call, this time from Lena, his closest friend. She had been planning to stand beside him at the ceremony. Her tone was thick with forced compassion. "I know he messed up, Dorothy, but he's drowning. Can't you at least help with a few of the deposits?" "Why would I do that?" I asked. "Because you loved him." "I did," I said, past tense. "You're going to let him lose his apartment." "That sounds like something he should have considered before making unilateral decisions." Her voice sharpened. "How can you be so cold?" "How could he blindside me at brunch?" I asked. "We all make choices." She kept trying for 20 exhausting minutes. She tried guilt, logic, anger, sympathy. None of it landed. Eventually, I said, "I'm done with this conversation," and hung up. I blocked her too, but Brandon wasn't finished. Wednesday morning, I woke to an email from his lawyer, a formal demand that I pay my share of the wedding expenses. My lawyer responded within hours. Brandon put everything in his name. Brandon called off the engagement. I had no obligations. The reply from his attorney was longer, more threatening. Listing legal terms meant to scare me. Promissory estoppel, unjust enrichment, emotional damages. My lawyer called me later with a tired sigh. He has no case. Any judge will throw it out. "How much will it cost to defend if he actually files?" I asked. "Probably $5,000 to $10,000. I breathed in steady. "Defend everything. I'm not paying him a cent." And that was when something clicked inside me. A clarity so sharp I could almost feel it cutting. Everyone kept acting as though I was punishing Brandon, as though I was cruel, but they weren't paying attention. Brandon didn't just end the wedding. He did it publicly. He chose humiliation for me as the delivery method. His friends laughed at me when I said I'd throw a dodged a bullet party. They laughed as if I were pathetic. But when the consequences landed on him instead of me, suddenly I was heartless. No, he asked the universe for independence. The universe granted it with exact precision. That afternoon, I sent out the invitations. Not to a wedding, to the party. 30 people confirmed within hours. My family, my coworkers, and surprisingly, 2 of Brandon's own friends, people who messaged me privately to say they were ashamed of him. The venue cost $800, nothing compared to the $62,000 Brandon had strapped to his own back. And as I sat in my living room, looking at the finalized guest list, I felt something I hadn't felt since brunch. Control, not revenge, not anger. Control. For once, this story belonged to me. I thought the worst of Brandon's behavior had already surfaced: the public breakup, the guilt campaigns, the legal threats. But the truth is, people often save their most unflattering selves for when they start to lose control. And Brandon was losing control fast. 10 days after the brunch incident, things escalated in ways I didn't expect. After blocking most of his family and friends, I'd finally found a fragile pocket of peace. I wasn't happy, but I was steady enough to breathe again. Then on Friday evening, I got a call from a mutual friend, a woman named Caroline, who rarely involved herself in drama. Her voice was tense. "Dorothy, you need to know what actually happened." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "Brandon didn't just panic. He didn't just get overwhelmed. He's been talking to a woman from his gym." For a moment, I couldn't speak. It felt like someone was slowly pressing a hand into my chest. Caroline continued quietly. "He said nothing physical happened, but emotionally. It was definitely an affair. They'd been talking for 3 months. He thought he was in love with her." Her name, I later learned, was Lily Tran, Brandon's ex-girlfriend from years ago. The kind of person a man tells you never to worry about. "He ended your engagement to pursue her," Caroline said. "He actually told a couple of people he was choosing his happiness after realizing he's capable of love deeper than what he had." I felt something inside me collapse, but not in the frantic, gasping way heartbreak usually shows up. No. My collapse was quiet, deep, a sinking into truth that was never meant to be comforting. "He called off the wedding, thinking she'd welcome him into her arms," Caroline added. "But when she found out about the $62,000 in debt and the chaos he caused, she blocked him immediately. So that was it. Brandon didn't leave me because he fell out of love. He left me because he wanted a fantasy. And when the fantasy saw the bill, she ran." Caroline apologized again, but I barely heard her. I thanked her, hung up, and sat still for a long time. No tears, no shaking, just a dim realization that Brandon had lied so thoroughly, first to me, then to himself, that he mistook his own selfishness for destiny. I didn't owe him compassion. I owed myself honesty. And the truth was simple. If he had told me the real reason at brunch, I would have walked away anyway. On Monday, the next wave hit. When I got home from work, I spotted a familiar figure sitting in the lobby of my building, Brandon's younger sister, Paige. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. When she stood, her clothes hung looser than usual. "Please," she said, voice small. "Just 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I nodded and gestured toward a lobby chair. She sat down and immediately burst into tears. "She's falling apart," Paige said. "She's lost 12 pounds. She's not sleeping. Collectors are already calling. She's spiraling." "Paige," I said gently, "none of that is my doing." "She knows she messed up," Paige insisted. "She knows she hurt you, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime." "What punishment?" I asked softly. "I'm not doing anything to him. I'm just not saving him from himself." "You have the money," Paige whispered. "You could help." "I also had a wedding. I had a future. I had dignity. He took all of those from me. I don't owe him my wallet on top of it." Her breath hitched. "She thought you'd always be there for her." Well, I said, leaning back, she was right until she dumped me at brunch for an emotional affair partner. Funny how that changes things. Paige blinked rapidly, shocked maybe that I finally said it aloud. "And the $150,000 from your uncle," she continued desperately. "Couldn't you ask him to give it anyway?" I stared at her. "You want me to ask my uncle to give Brandon, my ex-fiancé, who left me for someone else, $150,000 to pay off his wedding debt?" Paige swallowed. It would help him start over. I shook my head slowly. "Paige, you're delusional. Genuinely delusional." She flinched as if I slapped her. "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being fair. Brandon made choices. Big boy choices. And he gets big boy consequences." I stood. "We're done here." Paige broke down crying in the middle of my lobby. I walked upstairs without looking back. My hands were steady, my breathing even. Not because I enjoyed any of it, but because something inside me had finally snapped into alignment. Compassion without boundaries was self-destruction, and I was done destroying myself for Brandon. The next day, I got something unexpected, a Facebook friend request from Lily, the woman from the gym. I accepted out of pure curiosity. She messaged instantly. "Hey, I didn't know he was engaged. He told me he was single. Wanted you to know." I stared at the message for a moment before replying. "Thanks." He called off our wedding. "Yeah, that sounds right," she wrote. "He told me you two were basically broken up already. He's been blowing up my phone, saying you ruined his life." "I didn't call off the wedding," I typed back. "I figured," she replied. "Good luck. He's intense." Then she unfriended me immediately. Honestly, I respected that. By Wednesday, everything escalated again. Brandon's attorney formally filed a lawsuit, actual legal documents this time. Breach of promise, unjust enrichment, emotional distress, the kind of claims desperate people make when they're grasping at straws. My lawyer barely blinked. "This won't hold," she said. "He's wasting time and money." "Let him," I replied. "He chose this battleground." Thursday night, Brandon did something reckless. Someone held the door for him, and he made his way inside my building. He pounded on my apartment door, hard enough to rattle it. "Dorothy, open up. We need to talk." I stepped back from the door and called building security. They came quickly and escorted him out while he shouted about how I was destroying his life, how I was heartless, how he had rights. Afterward, the building manager called me. "Ma'am," he said, "we've documented everything. He's banned from the property. If he comes back, we're calling the police." "Thank you," I breathed. He paused. "Can I ask, what did you do to him?" I answered honestly. "I didn't marry him." He laughed softly. "Fair enough." By Friday, I was finalizing headcount for the party. 32 attendees. Friends, family, coworkers. Even 2 of Brandon's friends who quietly told me they couldn't defend what he'd done. I approved the printing of a banner. Dodged a bullet. A celebration. When my mother asked if this was too harsh, I looked her in the eye and said, "He humiliated me at brunch. I'm not humiliating him. I'm celebrating myself." And for the first time in weeks, something inside me unclenched, like air returning to a room I hadn't realized was suffocating. Brandon's life was unraveling. Mine was just beginning to stabilize, and I still had no idea just how much more was coming. By the time the week of the party arrived, the chaos around Brandon had grown into its own weather system, loud, frantic, spiraling. But around me, something strange was happening. Life was settling. Not peacefully, not completely, but enough for me to feel the ground beneath my feet again. I don't think Brandon understood that when he ended our engagement publicly, he also handed me something I didn't know I needed permission to walk away without guilt. And as he kept trying to drag me back into the storm of his consequences, my resolve only sharpened. I expected the next wave of drama to come from Brandon. Instead, it came from his father. It was Wednesday afternoon when my office phone rang, my direct line, which only a handful of people had. When I picked up, an unfamiliar voice growled, "This is Brandon's father." I didn't speak, I just waited. "I'm calling because you're destroying my son's life over your pride," he accused. "You two were supposed to get married. That debt belonged to both of you." I answered with steady calm. "Your son ended the wedding. He put all the expenses in his name. Those were his choices." "He made a mistake," he snapped. "People make mistakes. And they face consequences," I replied. "That's life." "I'm offering to mediate," he said, as if proposing a groundbreaking solution. "You pay half, he pays half. Clean slate." "No," I said. He inhaled sharply. "Why are you being so stubborn?" "Because I said your son chose to humiliate me at brunch in front of his friends. He ended our wedding for maximum impact. Now he expects me to clean up the mess he made alone. That's not stubbornness. That's self-respect." There was a beat of silence on his end. Then he tried something uglier. "We can't afford to help him," he said. "We have our own bills. If you don't help, he'll be ruined. You don't want that on your conscience." "I don't," I said. "But it won't be on mine. It'll be on his." And then he made a mistake. He tried threatening me. "I know people he warned. You're going to regret this." My voice stayed calm. "This state allows one-party consent on recorded calls. I have everything you just said." He hung up instantly. I stared at the receiver for a moment longer, then gently placed it back into its cradle. A surprising sense of relief washed through me. Not because I enjoyed confrontation, but because his threat revealed something vital. Brandon wasn't just desperate. His entire family was collapsing under the weight of his choices, and they all expected me to be the solution. I wasn't. 2 days later, on Friday, another revelation surfaced. A different mutual friend reached out this time, someone who wasn't close to Brandon, which meant the information had weight. "I didn't want to get involved," she began carefully. But you should know the real reason he called off the wedding. My heart tightened. I already know about the woman from the gym. It's more than that, she said. He didn't just think he loved her. He was planning to pursue her seriously. He ended your engagement because he genuinely believed she was his soulmate. And when she found out about the debt and the chaos I finished for her, she ran. Exactly. She exhaled. He told people you were holding him back from real love. He didn't tell anyone he was emotionally cheating. He just made you out to be the villain. I felt something shift inside me, not anger, not pain, just clarity. I finally saw Brandon for who he truly was, a man who created disasters and expected everyone else to sweep up the shards. He wanted a new life. He got it, just not the one he imagined. On Monday evening, I walked into my building lobby after work and froze. Standing there again was Paige, his sister. Her eyes were swollen, and she clutched her phone like it was her last lifeline. "Please," she whispered, "just hear me out." "No," I said instantly. "Your father tried threatening me last week. I'm done." She flinched. "I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to beg." I sighed and gestured toward the seating area. 5 minutes. She sat trembling. "He's falling apart," she said. "He's lost 12 pounds. He can't sleep. Collectors are calling nonstop. He says you're punishing him." "What punishment?" I asked. "Not paying someone else's debts isn't punishment. It's boundaries." "You don't understand," she cried. "He thought you'd always be there. He counted on you." "And I counted on him to not dump me at brunch," I said. "We were both wrong." She swallowed hard. "What if you just paid part of it, or talked to your uncle about the wedding gift? He meant it for both of you. Maybe he could still give it." I stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to ask my uncle for $150,000 to help the man who left me? Are you hearing yourself?" Paige broke down. "He's desperate, Dorothy." "So am I," said quietly. "Desperate to stop cleaning up after a grown man who hides behind everyone else when things get hard." I stood. "We're done." She collapsed into tears as I walked away. Something in me hardened, not out of cruelty, but clarity. Brandon didn't need me. He needed accountability. The next day I was preparing dinner when I got a Facebook friend request that made my heart pause. "Lily, the gym woman." I accepted. She messaged immediately. "Hey, I didn't know he was engaged. He told me he was single." I blinked. "He called off our wedding for you." "Yeah," she wrote, "and then told me you ruined his life." I stared at my phone. I didn't end the engagement. I figured, she replied. We stopped talking. "He's too much. Good luck." Then she unfriended me. Honestly, I respected her for that. Wednesday brought the next escalation, a formal lawsuit. Filed, active, real. Breach of promise, unjust enrichment, emotional distress. My lawyer laughed on the phone. His case is dead on arrival. "How much to defend it?" I asked. 8 to 12,000 if he pushes. Then we defend it. If Brandon wanted to weaponize the legal system, I wasn't going to roll over. Thursday night, he broke into the building again. Someone held the door open, and he pounded on my apartment door furiously. "Dorothy, open up. You're ruining my life." I didn't approach the door. I called building security, who escorted him out while he screamed about his rights. Afterward, the building manager called. "He's banned from the property," he said. "If he comes back, we're calling the police." He hesitated. "What did you do to him?" "I didn't marry him," I said. He laughed. "Fair enough." By Friday, all I cared about was the party. 32 confirmed guests. The banner ready. The decorations prepared. The drinks ordered. My mother questioned it gently. "Isn't this harsh?" But I shook my head. "Mom," I said, "he humiliated me publicly. This isn't revenge. This is closure." And for the first time since that brunch, I felt like Dorothy again. Not a victim, not a target, not a cleanup crew. A woman reclaiming her own story. The day of the dodged a bullet party arrived with surprising stillness. I woke up without dread for the first time in weeks. No buzzing phone, no frantic messages from Brandon's family, no threats, pleas, or guilt trips. Just quiet. Peaceful, unfamiliar quiet. I got ready slowly, almost ceremonially. A soft dress, loose curls, a touch of makeup. Nothing extravagant, just enough to feel like myself again. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see the woman who walked out of brunch shaking, blindsided, humiliated. I saw someone steadier. Someone who'd survived a storm she never asked for. The venue was a small bar Brandon and I had once thought about using for a rehearsal dinner. Irony is rarely subtle. When I walked in, the lights were warm, the music soft, and the giant banner hanging above the bar made me stop in my tracks. Dodged a bullet, a celebration. A few early guests clapped when they saw me. My closest friends hugged me tightly. Even two of Brandon's own friends, people who had witnessed his spiral firsthand, showed up offering quiet, awkward smiles that said more than any apology could. 32 people in total, more than I expected, more than I needed, enough to feel held. As the night unfolded, laughter echoed louder than I'd ever anticipated. People toasted to new beginnings, to self-respect, to painful truths that become liberating once spoken aloud. My best friend Marissa raised her glass and declared, "To Dorothy, who didn't just dodge a bullet, she dodged a whole firing squad." Everyone roared. I laughed too genuinely fully, without the hollowness I'd been carrying. We took photos under the banner, smiling, goofy, triumphant. I didn't tag Brandon. I didn't even mention him. This night wasn't for him. It wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. When the party ended, I walked home with tired feet and a lighter heart. I didn't yet know what the next morning would bring. The next day around mid-afternoon, my phone rang. Brandon's mother. The moment I answered, she began screaming. "How dare you humiliate my son publicly?" That banner, those photos. How could you do something so cruel? I breathed in slowly. I didn't mention him once. I threw a party with my friends. "You know exactly what you were doing," she cried. "He saw the photos. He's devastated." "Good," I said quietly. "He needs to sit with the fallout of his own choices." "He's talking about bankruptcy, Dorothy. Do you understand that?" "Yes," I replied. "That's what happens when you take on $62,000 of debt you can't afford and then lose the person who was going to help you pay it." "You could stop all of this," she shouted. "Just help him with some of the money." I closed my eyes. "Why would I asked. "Because he didn't just break up with me. He did it at brunch in front of his friends, designed for maximum humiliation. Because he put everything in his name to prove his independence. Because he tried to guilt me, sue me, and harass me into paying for choices I didn't make. Because he expects me to always clean up after him." Her voice cracked. "Because you loved him." "Past tense," I said. "And love doesn't mean funding someone's consequences." She hung up on me sobbing. I didn't cry, not this time. The final blow to Brandon's crusade came the following week. My lawyer called first thing in the morning. The judge dismissed his case. I blinked. "Already?" "Immediately," she said. The judge told his lawyer to advise him to stop wasting the court's time. I smiled a small private smile, the kind that grows only after surviving something quietly brutal. A few hours later, my father called. "You won't believe who showed up at our house," he said. I didn't need to guess. "Brandon." "Yes," Dad replied. "He came in crying, begging me to talk sense into you. Said he was going to lose everything. Wanted us to give him the money since we were basically family." I let out a bitter laugh. "What did you say?" I said, "You called off the wedding. You're not family, and my daughter doesn't owe you anything." Then I closed the door. Something in my chest loosened. "Thank you." "Dorothy," he said softly, "I'm proud of you. A lot of people would have folded under the pressure, but you didn't. You stood your ground." I swallowed hard. It didn't feel strong. It felt necessary. "Strength often does," he said. In the weeks that followed, Brandon's life truly unraveled. He moved back in with his parents. He broke his apartment lease, more fees. He worked 2 jobs trying to claw back at a debt he'd created single-handedly. His credit tanked. The collections calls intensified. He applied for debt consolidation. Nothing looked hopeful. People kept asking me if I felt bad. Honestly, no, not even a flicker. Brandon made every choice that led him here. He chose the emotional affair. He chose to call off the wedding publicly. He chose to put all the expenses in his name. He chose to sue me. He chose to lie, manipulate, threaten, and weaponize guilt. I simply chose not to rescue him. Meanwhile, my life grew quiet, peaceful, mine again. I had my grandmother's ring appraised. I considered selling it, letting it go the way I let him go. The apartment felt lighter without him. I even started dating again casually, without pressure, just breathing. Financially, I was only out about $10,000 party costs and legal fees. Brandon, $62,000 in deposits, several thousand more in legal fees, moving costs, destroyed credit, a reputation in pieces. When someone asked me if seeing him struggle made me want to help, I answered honestly, no, not even a little. This was never about money. It was about respect. Brandon disrespected me in the worst possible way, publicly, deliberately, cruelly, and then expected me to carry him through the consequences. Life doesn't work that way. Neither do I. He wanted independence, and he got it. Completely. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone solve their own problems, especially when they spent years expecting you to solve them for them. And as for the party, it really was the best money I'd spent in years. Life is good now. Quiet, steady, mine. And I have no regrets.